Welcome in. You are listening to Inside the Hive on the Hornets on SI network, one podcast feed with multiple shows, making sure we cover the show Hornets from every angle. If you like what you hear, please subscribe in Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review. Hornets on SI is affiliated with the Fans First Sports podcast group. Today's show, we have actual Hornets basketball, Sam. Yeah. We have the Hornets preseason game just finished up literally about 3 minutes ago. Hornets had a chance to somehow win the game with 3 free throws down to Dwayne Washington Jr., who wasn't even on the team until last week, steps to the line, misses his first 2, tries to miss the third one on purpose, ends up missing it. Hornets lose, but that's pretty much meaningless. We'll get into the important stuff, especially in the first half of the game when kind of both teams really put out their first and second units. A little bit more to take from that. And that's what today's show is going to be. It's going to be largely just focusing on that preseason game. And I don't know about you, Sam. It's been a while since I've watched basketball and been analyzing and making notes. And this was sensory overload. I'm going to have to watch this whole game again. I was trying to look on the ball. I was trying to look off the ball. I was trying to see what Charles Lee was doing on the sideline. It was exhausting to watch that. I'm not used to it.
Yeah, and I feel you. I agree with you. I was the same way. I was live streaming during it, and so I haven't live streamed the game, and I don't know since March is when I stopped doing my live streams for the Hornets when it just became too brutal to do. And so yeah, it was a lot going on. You're not wrong. And then when you look at the score, and then you're like, wait a minute, they have their starters out. Charlotte has their starters out, and things are clicking. Is this better than I thought it was? Thought it is gonna be? This is kind of looking really nice, So I feel you. This game was something that you would expect the Hornets to get blown out in, considering the moves the Knicks made, the run they went on last year, and the kind of overall state of Charlotte basketball compared to where New York is right now. And yeah, it was very competitive for the first half.
It was competitive, and this game essentially was a draw. I think it was 61-all at the half, and that was when both teams played their actual team. The Hornets started the second half with their normal starting 5. The Knicks didn't, and that's where the Hornets essentially pulled out to a 10-point lead. So if you basically look at halftime, it was a level game. Like you say, Karl-Anthony Towns made his debut for the Knicks. They had Mikal Bridges also made his debut for the Knicks. Was definitely interesting to see that collection of players out there before. But let's focus on the Hornets. Leading the team in scoring was LaMelo Ball. He had 18 points in 19 minutes, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, 4 turnovers, 4 fouls, 6 of 14 from the field, 4 of 10 from 3. Next in scoring was Trey Mann off the bench. 15 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. He was 6 of 8, including 3 of 4 from 3. Really strong game from Trey Mann. And then we had Brandon Miller chip in 12 points, Miles Bridges 10 points. And the only other player in double figures was Tidjane Salaün, rookie, who came on with 11 points, went 3 of 5 from 3, including hitting kind of back-to-back threes late in the game to help Charlotte's basically bench unit kind of come back in the game. Where do you want to start, Sam? Because there's so much to talk about in this game. We've not seen any Hornets basketball. I think it's 175 days. Do you want to go big picture? Do you want to go zoom in on a player? Do you want to talk about what you saw from the coaching and the scheme? Where do you want to start?
Well, let's get this out the way first. Let's talk the guys who we didn't see. Specifically, no Grant Williams.
Yep.
No Nick Smith Jr., no Cody Martin, and obviously no Mark Williams. Not what you want to see just as a fan when that little portion of the out has 4 names in it already. It's here we go. And it kind of robbed us of seeing how Grant would be used into this mix, right? We talked about it a couple of weeks ago, who would be that 5th starter. With no Grant Williams, it's pretty obvious it's going to be Josh Green. With everybody available, what's that look like? What does a small ball lineup look like? We've yet to see that. So that's just something to keep in mind once guys start coming back, specifically Grant Williams, going forward the rest of the preseason.
Yeah, I think with all of those, I think the Grant Williams one sounds like it's very much a precaution. Like he had the injury before training camp, but then still did training camp. So it sounds like they're just being super cautious with that one. Nick Smith, obviously the muscle injuries. Like everyone always like likes to criticize training staff and Charlotte especially. Muscle injuries are the ones where like you can normally be managed a little bit more. That would normally be overusage, fatigue, stuff of that nature. And both Nick Smith, I believe, is a hamstring, and Grant Williams was also a hamstring. So that they are like classic muscle injuries. But neither of those guys, it doesn't sound like Charles Lee said pre-game that they all appear to be short-term injuries. So I don't think there's anyone yet in threat of actually missing time in the regular season. Cody Martin, I think, has had a laceration on his wrist from trying to block a shot at the rim during training camp. So all hopefully short time. Look, let's go to LaMelo Ball because he's the player that the Hornets fans have not seen for many a month, since November, basically, it felt like. I think it was against Orlando when he went with that ankle injury. How did you think LaMelo Ball looked out there tonight?
I think it looked normal. Like, for him, like, he looked like LaMelo Ball. And I don't think if you didn't know he had ankle injuries last year and he didn't know he was trying out ankle braces for the first time, you wouldn't know. Like, he wasn't the most explosive guy before, right? But he looked like LaMelo Ball. And for a preseason game, that's all I'm looking for. I expect, like, if the shot's not there, that's fine, right? But I want to see the movement. I want to see the explosion, quickness. He was intercepting passes. Like, he looked like LaMelo physically. And that gives me confidence going forward.
I agree with you offensively. It kind of just looked like nothing had really changed. Even though it's been a while since we've seen it, it was, some careless turnovers here and there, like a kind of inefficient night, not getting to the free throw line too much. That all looked the same.
Yeah.
What maybe didn't look like LaMelo, I thought, was the defense. And I mean that in a good way. Like, there was, Charles Lee said, I think pre-game, like, someone asked him, what is he looking for? He said, like, I want to see how many times we can fight through a screen so we don't have to force like the help defender to come. And LaMelo Ball was doing that tonight. There were several possessions where he was putting in that extra effort. Even first play of the game, like, I know everyone gets on him for his on-ball defense, but there was actually a really smart move where he saw the guy slipping to the rim. He came across weak side and he blocked the shot at the rim. We saw a lot of that in his rookie year. We really stopped seeing LaMelo Ball like as the shot blocker, kind of weak side rim protector in years 2, 3, 4. Just kind of went away. And I don't know if that's because coach was trying to tone him down a little bit and he was trying to get him to focus on ball more. But I did think the challenge Charles Lee had put to Ball in preseason and on media day, his very first test, and again, as Charles Lee said before, it's like not doing it for a quarter, not doing it for a game, not doing it for 10 games, doing it all the time. He passed the very first small little hurdle, and I was impressed. There was only one time that I really saw him get blown by in the entire game, which is definitely a positive thing for LaMelo Ball because that was a frequent in years gone by.
Yeah, and I think we saw, not to jump ahead too much, but Josh Green bearing the load of being that point of attack defender a lot, I think helps, right? Having a guy to turn to be that ball stopper, or the guy to at least make the opposing team's ball handler think twice before they cross or after they cross half court. I think that's going to help LaMelo a ton. Saw Brandon Miller do it a little bit too, but I think the addition of Josh Green is going to help LaMelo on the defensive end quite a bit.
Well, because that's what, Terry Rozier did that last year, right? LaMelo Ball was basically hidden at all times on the weakest perimeter player, and Terry Rozier took the more difficult matchup. I will say there were some matchups in the second quarter where Melo was guarding Jalen Brunson. And like that was the choice at the time. And there was even a time where they were playing Trey Mann, Vasilicic, and Melo. And at that point, Melo was guarding OG Anunoby, a wing.
Yeah.
So you're right. When Green was in the game, he was being used kind of similar to last year. But when he wasn't in the game, they were, I think, trying to put Melo in a position where he had to defend a little bit more, which is something he's kind of been shielded from. And I don't know if that will translate into the season. Is that just a kind of a preseason? Like, we're gonna ask you, we're gonna expect from you, show us what you can do there. I'm not sure, but it was an interesting to see. He did get that crack at Brunson a couple of times.
Yeah, because you're gonna get targeted out there if you're not able to do it, right? And if you show you can do it now, it'll help later, and you'll get those reps and help keep you out of foul trouble. Because last time we saw extended Melo, like he was among centers in fouls per game, and so assuming
tonight,
yeah, so like that's gonna be a problem. It's a good problem to have because it means he's available and out there more, and that means he's gonna be more effective and contribute more on the offensive end. But defensively, got to keep him available in that respect in the foul trouble point of view. So. Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong there.
A couple of notable observations I had for LaMelo Ball. It was interesting that he went to his kind of mid-range floater at one point, which had almost gone out of his game under Clifford last year. Like, he was very much focusing on attacking the rim at all times, never settling for that. So it feels like Charles Lee might be okay with him taking that shot. It won't be all the time, I know that for sure, but not taking away something that's clear LaMelo has an affection for in that range. The other thing was, especially early on, he had some pretty strong rim attacks, and I was worried that LaMelo would stop attacking the rim as much. After all these ankle injuries, showing a bit of caution, that little voice knocking the back of your head as, oh, don't attack the rim. And there was a couple of times he drove early, hard, into contact. A couple of times he went down and you kind of tense and you're like, is he okay? I did notice, like, I felt like he made an effort to fall on his back but like brace himself a little bit better, not kind of just like sticking a leg out, trying to regain your balance, which is how often you get hurt on that. But again, I liked that it wasn't affecting him because after so long, I did think, especially in the first game when you're just getting your rhythm, you would be hesitant there. And like I said, it looked like old LaMelo. There were no signs.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens in game 2 if this becomes a trend or a real point of emphasis. And we're recording, and if this is being talked about post game, we're not privy to what's been talked about. But especially in the first quarter, Brandon Miller was doing a lot of ball handling, like bringing the ball up and creating opportunities for LaMelo off ball as well. And so when you think about how he's going to be used and kind of what kind of dynamics are going to go on from the backcourt, that is something that I think could be a new part of LaMelo's game that could be unlocked if he's able to play off ball more. And so this is something to be mindful of.
Yeah, they definitely tried to kind of have him come off some screens just to give him a little bit of a head start. I mean, look, I don't think all of a sudden he's being used like Steph Curry out there by any means. And I know Eric Collins mentioned on the broadcast, I think it was lightly used and it was just kind of pretty simple stuff. But I mean, he's such a good deep range shooter, right? So anytime you come off the screen, you got any level of separation, he can let it go and pull it from 3. So that will be another thing. And it also gives Brandon Miller a chance to play make and have the ball in his hands a bit. Brandon Miller or Tidjane Salaün? Who do the fans want to hear about first?
I think Tidjane, bro.
I think you're right. I think it is Tidjane. And I did not think I'd be saying that tonight, right? I didn't, when Grant Williams got hurt, we got that news through. I thought, Tidjane will probably get a few more minutes. Look, really impressive game for Tidjane. Played 22 minutes, led the team in minutes, 11 points, only 1 rebound, 1 turnover, 2 fouls. But that shot for a 6'10", and by the way, he says he's 6'10". He looks huge out there. Does he not just look massive with his arms and shoulders? He is a huge human being. God, that shot looks pretty. Like, so soft, smooth, shoots it with incredible amount of confidence. In fact, no, he doesn't shoot with confidence. He shoots it with arrogance to the point that they might at some point have to dial it down a little bit. It went in tonight, so it looked great, and no one's going to say anything. But there was that one transition three where Eric Collins was like, well, that's a good shot if it goes in, I think he said. And there was a few moments like that for tonight for Tidjane. He got up 8 shots in his 22 minutes. But look, if that shot is very real, all of a sudden, like, he has a role in offense as a floor spacer. And that was going to be a question, like, would he be able to do that straight away? And very promising early signs.
Yeah, I didn't expect him to touch the floor in the first quarter at all. And he came in 3 minutes remaining in the first with Trey Mann, Micic, Curry, Gibson. It was really like you got the older spectrum and the very much the kids with Tidjane and Trey out there with Micic, Curry, and Gibson. I didn't expect to see Gibson that early either. But anyway, he showed out. Just a quick side note: every time he got subbed out, he looked like he needed to come out the game. He was like mouth wide open, breathing. So shout out to Taj. But yeah, he came in 3 minutes left in the first quarter and didn't touch the ball. I was like, oh no. Like please get that kid the ball at least. Like, get him a touch. He doesn't have to shoot it. Just give him a chance to get his hands on the ball and to get involved. And the first thing he does when he gets it, takes a dribble, hits a step, hook shot, bucket. I'm like, oh my God, let's go. Let's go. I love the confidence of the kid, like you mentioned, the arrogance of the kid. And hopefully they continue to feed into that, because as a youngster, maintaining your confidence and operating with like purpose, I think is going to be key for him to actually develop real NBA skills. And it's only positive for me. Like, I love what I saw today.
I don't love right the 3-point shooting. I loved it. Right, I think it looked super smooth. He shot it with confidence. You see so many guys who are big, like if they miss one, they then don't look at the rim again. I love that side of it. I think other than that, I don't think he had a great game in terms of like impacting winning and doing those things on the floor. I thought, like, defensively on ball, I thought he was good. Like, again, he's just one of these players defensively. I don't know if he's going to show up on the stat sheet a ton with like steals and blocks, but you watch him, like, they were switching him on to everybody, and he was staying with guards really well, putting up challenges, like was sliding really well on the perimeter. And that's where he's super interesting, right? 6'10" guy who can shoot the ball. He can slide well defensively, and he plays with a hell of an effort and urgency. That's very exciting. But there was some just like classic young player, the game moving too fast for him. He tried to do a backdoor pass, which was like, should have been a turnover. It was like lucky that it ended up not being a turnover. There was a couple of shot attempts where I was like, I don't think you need to be taking that right now. Like, wait for the ball to find you rather than kind of being super aggressive, especially when you're out there with the vet guys. Okay. Yeah. Like those are the guys who I think can get more efficient shots right now. So a little bit thirsty, but he was always like that in France. I wasn't not expecting it. And I just think there's going to be a classic balance there between feeding that thirst, but also playing efficient basketball and getting people the right shots. And I'm not expecting to have it on night one. But look, you'd much rather someone have this approach than someone who's scared to shoot out there, and the moment's too big for him. And it didn't look like that.
No, exactly. And you can peel it back with him. It's harder to have him increase, right? So he was going to learn how to play in the NBA. That will come. But what he was doing today, I think it's not. I don't think it's not fair to expect that on Tuesday. I think when is the next game, like he as great as what he did offensively, at least from the shot today was, he could easily go 0 for 5 on Tuesday. But if
he was super streaky last year in the French league, like he went through a period in the middle of the season where he shot 45%, and then and end of the season he was good, and then before that he'd go in like stretches where he went 1 for 15 over like 4 games. He is very much a streaky player, so I expect that again to continue, especially with him being so young.
No, I agree, and I want to see him with the starters a little bit more, just so he has that exposure, because this is really only opportunity we'll get to do it, I think. So when you talk about like what to expect the rest of the preseason, I want to see him with the first group as much as possible, at least for an extended run and one like a second or third quarter before they take a seat for the rest of the night, just so we can get that experience and that look against hopefully the other team starters. Because like when you look at the second half, it's like, all right, the Knicks were done for the day. Like it was the campaign and Deuce McBride show the rest of the evening. It's hard to really like look at the positives or put real value in any of the positives, but they are positives, and it's fun. I was excited. I think at one point he had the worst plus minus on the team during the game. I think Jeffries ended with the worst one. By the time things were over with. So you're right. It's definitely not all there, but I think the little signs are pointing in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean they weren't in that game with a minute to go if it wasn't for his shot making at the end, right? So like already he's had a moment where he's clawed the Hornets back into the preseason game. So Tidjane, like definitely an encouraging showing. When the expectations, I think for both of us, we were being pretty realistic. So I'm happy he had that moment. I'm happy he got a taste of it. Look, Grant Williams being out in preseason, he's going to get more minutes here. So it's a good opportunity for Tidjane. If Grant Williams was playing tonight, Tidjane would have been coming in with that KJ Simpson group, right? Yeah, and this wouldn't have happened. So where there is an opportunity now, and he has a chance to stake a claim.
Oh, no doubt. Shout out to Tidjane, man. That was fun. That's what I hope. A lot of fun.
That's what I hope. Out of timeout plays for Tidjane Salaün. Like Charles Lee's drawing out ATOs for the 18-year-old or 19-year-old rookie. I mean, I was not expecting that. They literally pulled up a play for him. That's showing a lot of belief and confidence in your young player. That's going to mean a hell of a lot for Tidjane Salaün. And he made the shot, right? He repaid the faith of his coach, and that was a cool moment.
Oh, no doubt. And I love that it was at home too, because you could feel it. It was a sparse crowd at the Spectrum Center. It's preseason game, like on a Sunday night, like it's fine, right? But you can feel the crowd like wake up when he's on the floor. That's always fun.
Yeah. Brandon Miller next.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on Brandon Miller?
I mean, I thought so. On the positive end, I thought my thing with Brandon is I want him to be a shooting guard right now until he gets bigger. Until he puts more pounds, because we saw him still bounce off of guys and not in a good way. Like in like football, they say you want to fall forward every time you get tackled. You want to always move positive at all times. And I feel like when Brandon Miller has the ball, he doesn't. Like I think goes the other way more than he goes forward, right? When he meets contact in the lane. And we saw that a few times tonight. But I love that he got opportunities to run the floor with the ball in his hands, and to do it with his head up. Like he found LaMelo. I think it was a block or like one of those, or maybe a rebound. Anyway, like ball fell. I think it was Nick Richards' block. Fell right to Brandon Miller. Put the ball on the floor, and not Anunoby. Achua was sleeping. Left LaMelo wide open. Miller found him. Easy three. Like I love that type of stuff from a second-year guy. All right, the vision, the playmaking, the effort. I think it's pretty constant with him, in my opinion. And we saw that tonight. I just need to see him be more physical. That's my main thing with him.
Yeah, 7 of his 8 shots tonight were threes. And I know Charles Lee has discussed that he would like him to shoot more threes this year.
Yeah.
But he's also said that we can't just take the mid-range away from him, because he's incredibly good in the mid-range. And Charles Lee said, like, we played in Brooklyn, we played with guys like Kyrie, and we played with guys like Kevin Durant, who are great mid-range players. And you have to find a way to factor that in. So I don't think he's all of a sudden just going to be a spot-up guy. Don't worry. This is just one game. It's not going to play like that. What I did notice, Sam, and this is one thing, this is just the naked eye test, right? I've not had a chance to go back and check the film. His release on his shot looked higher and maybe a little bit quicker. It really jumped out to me, and when he made those 2 back-to-back threes, where the closeout was pretty much there and pretty tight. and Miller was able to shoot over them. And it's making me want to go back and check up some synergy film here, because he did have a relatively low release. That was one of actually the knocks coming out of him in the draft. And 3, he's a great shooter. But with that low release, it's hard to shoot over guys. It's hard to shoot at range if you're being guarded closely. So it wouldn't surprise me if over the summer he had been working on trying to speed up that release or get it a little bit higher. So just something to keep an eye on next time you watch and see what you think. But look, shot the ball really well. 5 rebounds, 3 assists in 20 minutes. That's pretty good going. Like if you look back on his averages from last year, he might not have done all the scoring, but he was the kind of the clear guy to end the second half. They drew up a half-court set for Brandon Miller, not for LaMelo Ball. It was, let's get Miller a shot here, and that was how they wanted to end the half. This kind of got me thinking, if it's a close game, game's on the line, tied game, Hornets have the ball, you got 18 seconds left. Who do you want taking that last shot?
Is it off the dribble?
Yeah. You've inbounded the ball.
Like the clock's
got 18 seconds left. Okay. Yeah, clock's ticking.
I'm going LaMelo. I'm
okay.
I would say LaMelo, but it's not. It's close. It's closer. It's close. I wouldn't be upset if Brandon had that shot, but I think I'd have LaMelo with it. With like clock's ticking, 10 seconds going down, waiting for the right opportunity to break down the defender. I'm going LaMelo there.
I think I'll go Brandon Miller. I think he is a better kind of two point. If you have to go into isolation, ability to pivot, shoot over people, score from strange angles, get in that mid-range area. LaMelo Ball kind of needs space to operate, in my opinion. And if you're just having to go down that isolation route, I think I would go Brandon Miller. And I kind of wonder if the Hornets will this season. It's going to be like, there will be multiple reads in this situation. Be like, read 1 is this, read 2 is this. And LaMelo Ball will be involved having the ball. But if we've got 5, 6, 7 seconds left and we need to get shot and we've got no momentum, the defense isn't moving, I think they'd give it to Brandon Miller. But we'll have opportunities. We're going to find out if that inkling I have is true.
Yeah. I just want to mention real quick too with Brandon. I love when guys find their spot on the floor and they have that comfort there. And we saw that with him. He had back-to-back threes from the same spot on the floor off the catch. Yeah. Like, I love that. It again, just more things to be mindful of as we go through preseason. Because I would love to know if that's what he was working on this summer. If like this is my spot, I'm going here. If it's not there, I'm doing this. But my first option when I'm here is to send a 3 up.
Sam, where do you want to go next? Take us where your mind goes.
Okay. I want to go to Nick Richards. All right. Because my guy, Nick Richards, going into year 5, still having issues setting screens. Somewhere, wherever Steve Clifford is, sure had a chill, go run down the spine when Nick Richards got called for a moving screen. Couldn't believe what I was saying. This second quarter.
And the goaltend. We had the full Nick Richards experience, didn't we? The goaltend, the moving screen. We got it all.
Well, I don't want to be all negative to Nick because he had some really nice help defensive plays, including a block to Brunson, which the next time Brunson went down the lane, he saw Nick coming. Brunson pulled back, put up a shot, went short, turned into points the other way for Nick Richards. Like, it's that old cliche of like, you get your big men involved on the offensive end, they'll do it for you on the defensive end. Nick was found multiple times for alley-oop opportunities and entry pass opportunities. Didn't catch them all, but the ones he did, he converted on, and we saw the effort on the other end. So I think Nick had some nice flashes tonight, and that makes me happy considering the current state of the front court.
Yeah, he was productive in his minutes, and he protected the rim well. I thought he looked bigger tonight, like stronger, like in really good shape. Like, and Nick's always been in good shape. He's never been a guy who's been out of shape, but I just thought he looked fantastic tonight physically. I am happy about one thing. I think this will be the last time that we see Nick Richards try and make a backdoor pass or put the ball on the deck again. Like, I think he's probably been playing like, pick up basketball over the summer where he can shove some passes, put the ball on the deck, and try and like post up. And then he tried to do both things in this game, and it's just turnover. And I felt like I saw the light bulb go off in his head going, oh, yeah, in the actual NBA, I can't do that stuff. And he's generally pretty good at like not pushing outside of his boundaries. And I feel like this preseason has just been another quick reminder. It's like, yeah, I need to stick with my strengths. I don't need to be dribbling in and around the paint. I will lose the ball. I don't need to be trying to take out a defender with a backdoor pass. That is not my strength. So I'm happy that we got that out of the system in preseason game 1. And Nick will go back to being normal Nick Richards.
Yes. Did Trey Mann remind you of anybody in that game, like physically? Because watching it, he looks like he's from the mid 2000s, and I want to know if it's intentional because he has.
It's 100% intentional. He's got the baggy shorts going.
Yeah, like
the fro which he rocks like in and around practice. He's absolutely
cosplaying as AI, right? Like I love it. I'm from that era. That's when I was a kid. That's my golden era of NBA basketball. So I love the nod to it. But like watching it, like, yeah, man. Okay, Trey. I see you. Where's Larry Hughes when you need him?
Yeah, I mean, he shot the ball extremely well tonight, and we heard about his jump that he made from a shot-making point of view. But what really impressed me was the defense. Like, he was everywhere, like picked up the odd foul here and there, and but they were like so close to being steals. They'll show us a foul on the stat sheet, but he was everywhere, and he got at least one good kind of rip-away steal. And then his strength at the rim. He had those two at times where he tapped the rim, once with the left, and he got the and one once he finished the right. And Trey Mann is like a small, pretty slight guy. And we didn't see him physically attacking the rim and bouncing off bigs and finishing last season very often. He was generally someone who avoided physical contact and just looked strong tonight, looked confident, looked like he wanted the contact. And that is something that we hadn't seen. So I really do think, like I said this tweet the day, Trey Mann is like the MVP of training camp, I think, so far. Like, in terms of buzz, reading from all the quotes around the room, I'm not saying he's the MVP of the team, but in terms of the guy who, in line with expectations, I think is probably going to be standing up to surprise people this year, I think Trey Mann might be that guy. He could be a very legitimate sixth man for this team. And, if he is 75% of Terry Rozier, that is a fantastic outcome, especially because he's a restricted free agent next season. And having a guy like that around the team could be very, very useful. The Hornets just have so many ball handlers now. LaMelo, like even Josh Green can handle a bit. Vassar, not Vasilier anymore, not Vasilije Micic, Vasa Micic. He wants you to know now.
Okay.
That's according to Eric Collins. And it says this, I checked the media guide as well, that it said that he's changed it to Vassar. Just wants to be Vassar. So we have to go Vassar now. Hornets have so much ball handling. It's strange after we went into last season with Ish Smith as our backup point guard. And now they have a plethora of options.
Yeah, like the backcourt this is the healthiest the backcourt. Well, not healthy. I don't use the word healthy because you never know. I don't want to jinx anybody. This is the deepest the backcourt has been in the post Kemba era, in this rebuild.
Oh yeah,
and it's Trey Mann. What Trey Mann is, the trajectory of Trey Mann makes me more confident in the second unit. The idea of the second unit being led by Trey Mann on the offensive end and Grant Williams on the defensive end, and then you pick and pop whoever you want, want to mix some starters in there, mix some kids in there, whatever. But like as your sixth and seventh man, Grant and Trey, that is a really healthy place to be. Beyond that, it's a question mark. But projecting out the rest of the year, I'm really I have a lot of confidence in that, where I hadn't had that since Kemba left. Like it's really since the Monk, Graham, LaMelo, Rozier run. Like that group, this group is on par or better than that, in my opinion.
I agree. Look, overall, if you take some kind of big picture thoughts, I know you focus on the plays so far. I thought the offense looked I'd love to come out with some like amazing take that they were doing this, they were doing something particular action lots more than, and I just don't really have that feeling. Okay, they were still trying to get LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller the ball in right places. I did notice probably a dialed down usage of Miles Bridges. Like he was very much floor spacing and driving and kicking, not taking mid-range pull-up shots, which was a positive thing to see. Defense, they were playing a pretty standard drop, apart from when like Salaun was in, and actually in the clutch when they played Musa Diabate, they switched quite a lot then with the fives. But other than that, it was a pretty solid drop with Taj Gibson, a revitalized Taj Gibson, playing against his Tom Thibodeau, one of his good longtime friends in the NBA, who's given him a job for most of his career. But I felt offensively there was some confusion, especially in the first half. Like I caught myself noticing 4 or 5 times multiple people pointing in opposite directions of where the ball needed to go, where the man needed to go, which again, it's to be expected. But there was nothing that really jumped out to me schematically just yet, apart from some of the things we've talked about with LaMelo off ball a little bit more. They ran some Spain pick and roll where you kind of have the two bigs set the screen and one rolls and one stays high. And Vasa Micic did that a lot with Salaun and Taj Gibson. Well, that really works well, right? Salaun can drop off in space. Taj Gibson can roll. That looked like something they were looking at a good bit, which we obviously didn't see last year with Salaun not being on the team or Gibson. But there was nothing else that really stood out to me yet, I think. Like I say, this is one where I need to go back and rewatch this game and probably pay closer attention to the sets to get a better feel. But just watching it in real time with the info I had, I felt like they were okay defensively and okay offensively without either end probably looking stand out way ahead of one or the other, really.
Yeah, I mean, for preseason, the fact that as far as we know, nobody got hurt, and I didn't see any major red flags.
They looked organized. They looked organized. They looked like they're into
coaching staff. Like everything seemed to be like fine at worst, and so that's a big win for me. Watching it, and I don't know if you notice this in your rewatch, let me know. And if someone caught this in real time, please let me know on Twitter or something like that, because Tibbs was moaning about a moving screen at one point, and I heard someone tell him to shut up, and it sounded like Charles Lee. I don't know if it was. Not saying it was, but it sounded like it. I want it to be true. I don't know if it's true. But Tibbs was going on and on about a moving screen, and I heard someone from the Hornets bench tell him to shut up. And it could have been a fan.
Tibbs, it's preseason. Shut up.
Please let me know if that was someone on the Hornets staff. I would love to know.
The one thing I will say, Charles Lee is going to have an arm ache tomorrow, because for the whole of the second half, he's standing there on the sideline going to his team, get your arms out wide, look big. Like, not the guy on the ball. He was talking about the guys behind the ball trying to like take away his passing lanes. He's got a lot of energy, right? You didn't see like Steve Clifford always like acting out, arms wide and high, like during the play.
Yeah, he
was into it. So he's definitely going to have some arm ache tomorrow.
That was one of my favorite qualities of him as the assistant, because when you watch those Celtics games, he was there, like just right on Joe Maz's ass, just gesturing all the time. Like once he was hired, I was looking for it. That you saw how active he was, and that energy. You just hope it would just pour into the players, and you can see some of the effects of that.
Right, Sam, where should we go here? We've been going for 39 minutes. Is there anything else? We should probably draw it to a close soon. Is there anyone else you want to point out? Anything you think needs to be recognized? I know we're not going to speak about every single player who played tonight. Trust me, a lot of players played tonight. With having 21 players in the roster still. Is there any last place that you want to go before we wrap up here?
No, just going forward. There's 19 guys going for 15 spots, I think.
We saw they got the Knicks signing trade guys. Yeah, Dwayne Washington Jr. played tonight. Daquan Jeffries played tonight.
No Charlie Brown, unfortunately. Right. So there's just something to be mindful of going forward of the usage and maybe we'll see a hint of who's leading the pack to make the final 15.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good to see KJ though. I was a big fan of him coming out of college. So not a whole lot to show for it from his time out there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They really tried to get that backdoor cut going. It wasn't really working with him and Jeffries. I respect that they kept going to it.
Yeah, Daquan Jeffries. I don't want to say anything too bad about any of the Knicks guys because they literally like arrived halfway through last week in like an absolute whirlwind of a week for those guys. But yeah, there were some moments. Look, last thing, let's just mention Josh Green because it is his first game, his debut in the Hornets uniform. I think we kind of got what we expected to see. Like a lot of high effort, picking up full court. Again, he's a guy where that energy doesn't always show up in the stat sheet. Hornets don't know if it's a thing that you want to have a lot of, but might have a lot of guys where that's the case. But I felt like you could feel him out there tonight. Like he was causing Brunson some issues, and Brunson was pretty quiet in the game, and I think you give that pretty good credit to Josh Green. He had a really nice, clean, smooth catch and shoot three. He had a possession where someone set a screen for him, and he kind of got through to the mid range, came to jump start, and kind of finished and floated at home. Like that's a position. That's just a possession he would never get in Dallas. Like having the ball in his hands and making an offensive play. So Chelsea said they were going to put the ball in his hands a little bit, and they're staying true to that faith. So again, need to see more. Didn't jump off the screen a ton, but brings the Hornets that on-ball defender, which they've been needing for a long time. I don't think he's great, but at least how hard he plays, I think can be infectious and rub off on other people. And if he gets LaMelo Ball playing harder just by, his approach, then that is worth money that you can't categorize upon a stat sheet.
Yeah, and from this first preseason game, he looks like he'll be the perfect role player in this group. And to your point, that first three was just, he's a guy that has to be honored out there at all times. And if you don't, someone's going to find him. Brandon's going to find him. LaMelo's going to find him open, and he'll make you pay. He has the ability, the efficiency to do that, and it'll only help the other guys out. So, no, I think that deal was already a win before any basketball happened, just because the value of it was so insane for what Charlotte gave up to get a player like him. And I don't see a scenario where it won't work out. Now, to your point, it may not be exciting, but I think it will be valuable when you're looking at the overall makeup of this team.
I hope you're right. I do. I'd lie. Like there is part of me that thinks that outside of the Dallas system, just offensively, he will have zero identity. And like he's not earning a minimum. He's on like 12, 13 million per year. And you need those guys to be like starters, really. Or to be at least in your top 6 or 7. And I think he will on this team, but this team is a kind of, a rebuilding team. So, but he's going to have a really good opportunity to show that if there is more skin on the bone, that he's going to be able to have the opportunity to explore the studio space a bit more offensively. And he's not going to have to be worried about getting pulled for Dante Exum or someone else in a minute, because I think he's going to get the opportunity here to start the year. So, Sam, that will do it for tonight. The Hornets' first preseason game in the Bucks. They lost the game. They really drew the game. It was competitive. It was fun. It was just good to have Hornets basketball back. We had Eric and Dell on the call. We had Shannon Spake, who you probably heard on this podcast a couple of weeks ago, as sideline reporter. Welcome, Shannon. Your first game too. A good all-round dress rehearsal. I enjoyed it. I am ready for with preseason 86 more. Let's do it.